That music is so epic.
I've never heard that before.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that was something.
I'm so deeply invested now.
In our own story.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. For all you tuned in out there on Twitch or YouTube or podcast, this is Knights of Prospect. This is a fully improvised role-playing adventure. Even our beloved game master only has a little bit planned out. We are really
3 sentences this week.
Oh, 3. Usually it's 1.
That's a lot.
Right? I love it. Yeah, highly improvised. We are all comedic improvisers in the Boston area. Happy to be with you this evening. I'm Whitney. I play Hazel Pippet, a friendly halfling mountain druid. Just figuring stuff out and shape-shifting and whatnot. Pretty fun. That's how I describe her.
Shape-shifting around this old crazy world.
Shape-shifting and whatnot. Yeah. So, Rob, how you doing?
Hi, my name is Rob, and I play Ronaldo Francis Bacai the Fourth, the foppish noble bard, and generally good guy, I guess. He has a fiery sword, he has songs, he has some magic, and boy, does he have charm and wit for days. For days. Sumit, how are you?
Hey, Rob, I'm good. Hey, everybody. My name is Sumit. I play Raspberry Snowberry, the human cleric who is sometimes wise, sometimes he is dumb, sometimes he's adventurous, sometimes he's shy. He's very human. He experiences a little bit of everything. He likes to negotiate. He's not afraid of negotiating.
Yeah.
He doesn't like fighting too much. He's kind of nonviolent sometimes. But sometimes he's extremely violent when it comes to
very violent.
Often very violent.
Raz contains multitudes.
Exactly. Yeah.
In a past episode, Raz didn't know if we were really us, and so we had to be on an opposite side of Raz, and he was terrified. That's what I learned about Raz.
Necromancing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory.
Yeah.
Ryan.
So I'm Ryan. I play Harry Chatbeard, also known as Gregory, for the feeble-tongued.
Strong-minded. Whoa.
Yeah.
Called out.
A dwarven legionary. Gregory does like to fight, and does not like magic. So a bit of a mirror image of Raz in that way. Also, I feel like Raz is tall and lithe, and Gregory is short and stocky, being a dwarf fighting man. But yeah, general distaste for magic and most things not dwarven, and previously fought alongside the Vorish legions against the perpetual war against the orcs. So being in orcish territory now, maybe Gregory's learned a couple things. Maybe he doesn't hate all orcs, but he hates most orcs. And is I'd say justifiably afraid of, fearful of them, and on high alert at all times when he sees orcs.
That is entirely fair. And I am John Serpico. I am the game master. It is my job to play all of the characters that are not being played by these 4 great improvisers. It is also my job to make sure that things that they find interesting become important in the show. So that's one of the most fun elements of this improvised story, is we're all contributing what we find interesting into the stew pot, and what comes out's a delicious stew. Also, one of my other jobs as GM is I'm going to ask the players to roll dice sometimes. And we use the Powered by the Apocalypse system. And so the way that works is most of the time I'm going to be asking them, when the outcome of something is uncertain, to roll 2, count them 2, 6-sided dice, just like the ones we are seeing on screen right now. On a 10 or higher, the thing that they want to happen happens. On a 7 to 9, only a little bit of what they want to happen happens, or they have to make a difficult choice. And on a 6 or less, the thing they want to happen does not happen. In fact, something rather terrible might happen. But no matter how those dice roll, something occurs. The story moves on. Very rarely does a 5 or a 6 mean you miss. It's much more likely to mean, oh no, something dark emerges from the earth. So that's pretty cool too. The other thing that I get to do as GM is explain a little bit about the story as it stands right now. So as Whitney said, you can listen to us on podcast, Knights of Prospect, wherever you find your podcasts, or on YouTube, wherever you find your YouTube. It's probably YouTube. And you can start right this second. This is episode 59. You could jump right on in, or you could start from the beginning. But for those of you that are jumping right on in, here's the story. You are looking at 4 of the Knights of Prospect, an ancient, benevolent order of knights that bring justice and munificence to the Riverlands. They are unfortunately very far from the Riverlands. They are in the great and expansive Orcish territories to the south. The reason why is because all of them are being drawn by strange dreams and promises of destiny to discover an ancient and lost elven city called Alveolora. The visions of Alveolora are starting to seep into their minds, and they're essentially crossing vast swaths of Orcish territory full of would-be Orcish warlords that would love to kill them, trying to find this ancient lost elven city. And so, really, that's where they are. They're traveling with a group of about a dozen. It's these 4, plus a few more Knights of Prospect, plus a Prince of Vor, who tried to come down and rescue them until they told them, no, we don't need rescuing. We're trying to find a lost city. So I think that's really all we need to know. So you now know the characters. You now know the backstory. You now know they're in the Orcish lands. And I think with that, we should probably get started. So here we are. Let's start with a bit of a cutscene. Homraz, the great warlord of the Keening Fields, sits upon a low wooden bench in the great hall of his castle. His castle is called the Spike, built centuries ago by an Orcish ruler whose name was ordered forgotten by Homraz. And because of the way Orcish belief system happens, when they believe something or remember something, it becomes powerful. When they forget it, it fades away. He receives a report from his scouts about a pack of non-orcs wandering the countryside. Among them is a Prince of Vor, one of the scouts explains. Homraz stands up and draws his spear from a ring on the wall behind him. You're not lying, I trust. The scout insists, and Homraz smiles broadly. While I trust that only 5 of my warriors would be up to the task, I shall ride forth with 1,000 warriors who seek the glory of killing a prince and his friends. Anyway, you've been following a stream for a while, trying to find its source. You believe you're getting closer now to Alveolora. That aforementioned Prince Wyman of Vor, has something that you did not when you walked through that portal to get to the Orcish lands. He has maps made by some of the finest Vorish scouts that have made it this far south. And so, based on like the compass you've been following that those 2 thieves, Delphine and Corentin, have, based on what the prince and the maps are saying, you're pretty sure Alveolora is in the mountains just beyond whatever you think the source of this stream is. Your hope is that you can begin making the approach into the mountains after you cross this water source. And so it's been a lot of you all kind of wandering, foraging, and hunting. You're in kind of the northern reaches of the Keening Fields, which is this big, expansive plains in which what you know is a great Orcish warlord is building an army. But the land here is a little more I mean, fertile is a strong word, but it is full of kind of dense vegetation, dense flora and fauna that the orcish constitution can handle. The trick is keeping you all alive, well, those of you that need to eat, which is not all of you, you all alive with things that you all could eat. So that takes a lot of your effort. It's a little easier since you're following a stream now. There are fish here. Weird, hideous fish, but fish, and various other supplies you're able to glean. In any event, though, you find the source of this stream, and it is in the form of a sprawling lake, a truly immense lake, and beyond it, mountains, vast, horizon to horizon mountains. How you're going to cross this lake, you do not know. But all of you, all the Knights of Prospect, plus those two thieves, Delphine and Corrigan, plus Prince Wyman, plus Dolly the Siege Golem, are all kind of standing here looking at the lake and pondering the mysteries. So we'll start there.
What a beautiful afternoon.
It is quite nice out. I do have to admire it's not often that I see mountains this close.
It's been a while since I've seen them this far away. It's nice.
I prefer them from the inside.
Okay. Well,
Can you tell when you're inside a mountain? Like, does it feel different from just being underground?
Well, if you're inside of a mountain at a higher elevation, there are pressure differences. You usually can tell in your ears.
I learn something new every day.
Good to know.
You study dwarf worth of salt, Ken. Not sure about you.
Well,
Yeah, Ronaldo.
what I'm not a dwarf, and definitely not worth the salt. I can tell you that much. Now, how do we get across the lake to them? Is there is there a way into the mountains? Is there a way if you prefer to go into a mountain, I would gladly allow you to guide us through. I don't know how we would get there, considering there's a lake in the way, but
I don't know of any hegemony outposts that come this far south. Unless my geography is completely distorted, I don't know of any outposts here.
Prince Wyman, who is with you, kind of is standing, Gregory, on your other side, and he's kind of staring at maps and using this weird kind of magical talisman to kind of create a projection. Well, unless the hegemony is keeping an outpost so secret that even I don't know about it, we are not anywhere friendly. That's for sure.
All right, I'm gonna see what's in this lake. Do some scouting.
Sure. So how would you like to scout?
I've been doing some studying of fish, so I'm gonna turn into a bullhead trout.
That sounds pretty good. So, let's just have you roll 2d6 plus wisdom. And actually, because a bit of a spoiler, there's nothing in this lake that seems particularly dangerous. This 2d6 plus wisdom is going to be for your discern realities, because you easily turn into this bullhead, and you're able to swim and maneuver very deftly. So we'll jump right to the studying.
Ooh, boy. 6.
All right. So, yeah. Ooh. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right.
I
So
don't like this.
I didn't. Why did we roll this?
you kind of put a toe in, and the lake is cold, but the second you turn into a bullhead a bullhead trout, you want nothing more than to get into this lake. And you get in, and the water is cool and refreshing, and there's something about filling your lungs underwater that is so refreshing. And that's the thing about being in kind of an animal form, is when you're in an animal form, you realize, like, when you're in that form, it's like, oh no, this is what I should be all the time. Like, literally, like, every time you're a peregrine falcon, you're like, nope, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be. And the same applies for right now. You're kind of cutting through the water. The beautiful afternoon sun is kind of pouring through, and you're arcing through it. And there's you're kind of skimming the lake, and you kind of swim across to the other side, which takes an outstandingly long time because this is a very big lake. And you realize, there doesn't appear to be any underground caves or, kind of water coming out through some irrigation or anything. And so you kind of turn back around, and there's just something about the direction you're facing and swimming in the coolness, but you want to dive, and clouds part and even more sun pours through. And the bottom of this lake is full of bones.
Bones?
Bones.
What kind of bones?
People
bones?
And because you rolled a 6, let's call it a melange of bones.
That's fair.
People, like, there are clearly human and orc skulls down here. This is a sea of bones. All settled in the deepest part of the lake.
So can I ask questions now?
Yes.
How many I got?
Well, here's the funny thing, is because this was a discern realities roll, normally on a full success you can ask 3, on a partial success you can ask only 1. Because this is a failure, the way we'll play it is this: you can ask as many as you want, but every answer will be bad. It will be knowledge, but very bad. But it is knowledge.
All right. I'll stick to this one. What here is useful?
Bones. No, there are other answers. We have other answers besides bones. What here is useful is this. You realize that there are nets out here, like floating nets, floating, to borrow an anachronism, essentially floating crab pots, which means that there are people here. There are sentient beings that are somewhere here. As horrifying as the bottom of a lake being absolutely covered with bones, like, you actually see like a couple of crab pots, like along the shore closest to where you are. And you kind of pop up, and it's like, oh, being above water stinks. This isn't cool. And then you get back down. So the thing that is valuable is there is a sign of some kind of habitation.
All right. Can I grab one of those crab pots and bring it back up?
You do. Yeah. You kind of untether it from its line.
Little fish fins.
Tiny little fish fins, and swimming this thing back. And eventually when you get back to your companions. So all of you on kind of the beach see this, like, brave little fish with tiny little horns pulling like this big kind of crab, this crab pot. And you pull it out, and Gregory, your immediate thought is like, oh my God, are orcs here? Is this a thing they do? And orcs generally don't. This is not how they fish. So this is something else. Something that is not some kind of species of living things that are capable of fishing and all of that, but not orcs are here.
All right, I'm going to turn back into Hazel. There's a crap ton of bones down there, y'all.
What kind of bones?
Melange. I don't know how I know that word, but I do now.
I understand what you mean exactly.
How much is a crap ton?
It's all over the bottom.
So a large amount.
Yeah.
Say that next time.
You're extra cranky today.
Well, I've just been informed there's a crap ton of bones at the bottom of this lake.
I'm just saying, you've heard bad news before. I was just a fish. All right.
I'm sure you loved it.
I did. It was great.
Sense a lot of
Be
death
out
here.
here.
Yeah, Raz, it's like when you walk amongst headstones in a burial ground, or there's the aftermath of a battle, like you sense death, but it's not necessarily bad. You obviously is a person of faith and person of worldliness, like it's part of the cycle, and like being aware that death exists is not bad. But here it's different. Here when Hazel said that there were a crap ton of bones, your immediate thought was like, oh, that's why I'm feeling this way. Like there's something unnatural about it. Something colder, an insidious quality to the death.
Do I sense an extra lack of a spiritual nature in this area?
2d6 plus wisdom.
That's a 4.
Oh, definitely. 100%. There is, the best way to describe it is, it's like you're in a neighborhood. You're walking the streets of a neighborhood you've never been in, and in the distance there's music playing, and you don't know where it's coming from. It's not here. It's somewhere down the street, around the corner, in a building, a couple of blocks down. But it's the worst music you've ever heard, and that it would be bad if you tried to walk in and tell them to stop playing. Like that's
the ice cream truck, like the ice cream truck song.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Not dissimilar. So there is a lake full of bones and a great and horrible malevolence on the other side of that lake.
And they like crab.
Well,
they eat crab.
I feel like we should find a way across this quickly, because this is either a dumping ground for an army, or some sort of necromancer's playground, and I don't want to find either. Anyone have an idea for a way to ferry across the river of bones, the lake of bones?
I'm gonna ask Enteresh for some guidance, since it seems like we're dealing with some kind of anti-spiritual.
Why don't you ask
force.
your god to drain this lake?
Gregory, come on. The
I
lake
told
is of
you-
nature.
We have
can't
how many
remove-
magicians do we have here? Somebody can
remove-
drain this lake.
Extra ornery today.
That
If I
feels
had
like
5 dwarven engineers, we could have this lake drained in the matter of hours.
that just feels like asking for an army of skeletons at this point. We know there's a ton of bones down there.
True too.
Also, it's a big ask for water to just disappear. I'm just saying.
Not disappear, just go in the direction of down.
How is that different?
It would still exist. It would just not be here. It would be elsewhere and not nowhere.
Yeah. Hazel, you consider, like, because you nature
buds.
likes you, you know.
Yeah.
And you think about it, you're like, this is like, if you ask this water to leave, it can't come back. And it's like, well, do we do
You
that?
know what? Water and I are friends because I don't ask it to do unreasonable things. No one
Mhm.
likes being put in that position.
Yeah, like you've never asked, such as it is, you know, you've never asked the water to drive you anywhere. You know, like it's just, no, we're friends, and when we see each other, it's nice.
Mhm.
But yeah, you got to get across via some conveyance or building something.
Well, Raz, ask your god.
So yeah, you petition Enteresh as you often do, kind of like arms extended up, and Enteresh kind of speaks in like a bell clear voice in your mind, which is, as always, your own voice in your head saying things that you couldn't possibly know. And Enteresh says that there are creatures here beyond his protection that may be willing to help you. Like, Enteresh, you can tell, is also aware that there is a great foulness on the other side of this lake. But on this side of the lake, there may be someone that can help. And the fact of the matter is, there was a crab pot here. And you don't think it was on the... and it wasn't from the other side of the lake. It came from this side somewhere. So, if you seek people out, you might be able to find someone nice.
Yep. Maybe there's a ferryman, or a ferry woman, or a ferry person. Maybe someone lives around here, and they have some boned lake crabs for dinner every night, and we can borrow their ferry / raft / whatever.
Yes, I'm sure there's more just friendly people living in the Orcish wilds that will be glad to help us.
I'm loving the positivity, Gregory. Thank you.
Worst case scenario, they're not friendly. We take their boat anyways.
We could build a causeway. With this crew, it would take about 3 to 4 months.
Oh boy. Ronaldo wants to start just looking around for any sort of structures that might be. Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like he would have noticed the house, but or like a dock. But is there anything in the distance around this lake?
2d6 plus wisdom, please.
8.
All right.
First good roll of the night. Here we go.
Yeah, pretty good. You see something, but it doesn't appear to be of human construct. It's not, as you said, a building. Mm-hmm. So you kind of, it's like, okay, well, I saw Hazel swim from over that way. I'm going to walk that way. And a number of the knights kind of branch out and start scouting, but you're kind of on a line. And you walk by what looks to be, at a distance, like lily pads, like particularly large lily pads. But the perspective is off. They're like, as you get closer, you realize, oh no, those are whatever they are, enormous. Like, those aren't like lily pads sitting on a lake. Those are probably 10, 15 foot diameter kind of green domes sitting like on the beach and extending over the water that's lapping up. And you get closer and you realize there are probably a dozen of them.
Oh boy.
And the partial success is they see you before you see them.
Oh, good.
And what are you standing next to right now? Just for sake of painting a picture here. You're observing kind of this collection of green domes on the beach. What are you standing near?
There's like one lone sort of, it's not quite a willow tree, because a willow tree needs more stern, steady soil, but it is a tree that is sort of like droopy on the outside and sort of has branches that are just so almost weighted down by the nature of the leaves that they almost, but not quite touch the lake. And it's there's not many of them. And there's just this one big one right here.
Yes. And you look and you're like, that's weird. And then you just kind of hear something above you, like a breeze. And you look up and there are like 3 figures in the trees.
Ah!
Like in the leaves, like looking down at you. And your first instinct is like, oh, those are kids. Those are like, what are 3 teenagers are doing in trees? And then
Hello?
like your eyes,
young children. Do you happen to? Is there an adult around that I can speak to?
as your eyes kind of focus and the breeze moves, they are very clearly not teenage kid. Like you start talking and you realize, oh no, those are not teenage human beings. Those are very thin adults that are not human. Blue and gold streaked skin, kind of like flared either gills or some kind of things emerging from their side. One of them has a blow dart, like a blowgun, just kind of like looking at you.
Never mind, thank you. And Ronaldo starts to walk away. I apologize for the inconvenience.
2d6 plus your charisma. This is going to be the pure luck of whether or not one of these things can read thoughts.
10!
I'll be damned. These things can read thoughts.
Hey!
These people, these entities can read thoughts. Well, one of them can anyway, because that's part of their magic. You hear a voice in your mind. No, you shan't go anywhere. You should stand here and tell us what you are doing.
Well, Ronaldo tries to like speak in his head and can't. He's like can't figure it out how to return the message.
Yeah.
My name is Ronaldo Francis Mackay IV. I am of the Mackay clan. I am a noble from Tower Town, and we seek passage across the lake to the other side of the mountain, and wish you no harm and your lovely pond. Lake? Pond.
I don't understand much of what you say, but I understand that you understand it. You are a human.
Oh, yes.
Ah.
Is that why?
Well, I've never seen one.
That's a relief, because there's a lot of bones at the bottom of the lake, and I was wondering if they would be from you. But it sounds like that's not the case.
No.
Oh, good. What's going on with the bones at the bottom of the lake?
The entity that you are speaking to kind of falls straight down like an arrow being shot out of the tree. They're maybe 5.5 feet tall.
Oh, you're much shorter than I thought.
Yeah. Kind of like rail thin, webbed hands. Kind of like the suggestion of clothing, but it's really more kind of pouches and like fine craft than clothes per se. And they're carrying like a blowgun across their chest and what looks to be like a curved bone sword on their back. I am Itrin.
Oh, well, that's good. I was going to name you Tuna.
No.
Okay.
Itrin.
Itrin, yes. Nice
Is
to meet you.
Tuna a term of honor for you humans?
Depends on who you're asking. Listen, Itrin, I apologize for any inconvenience that we in my group have potentially laid upon your lands and on your area.
Itrin sends Itrin kind of turn like mid-sentence, kind of like turns and opens their mouth, and You know how on a hot day you see heat bubbling up from the cobblestones? Like,
Mhm.
it's that, but sound.
Ooh.
And you get like a nosebleed for like a moment, and it's like, and like you feel very disoriented. And emerging from under the pods are at least 20 or 30 more of whatever species this is.
Oh, excellent.
How many are in your group?
Seems like if I'm going to be honest, Itrin, I have a feeling you already know it's roughly 11.
You are the first that we saw.
Oh, well,
We try to keep our eyes down, such as it is.
it's very polite, but I tell you our numbers in exact quantity because I really genuinely wish you no harm. We wish only passage across and through, but not to take, not to partake, not to steal, not to touch what not needs to be touched. We just wish passage through safely.
I believe you.
Well, good.
Please bring the rest of your group before this tree.
On it.
All of you are thusly summoned. Hazel, you're pretty sure you know what these folks are.
Sure.
They're Tritons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like there's this beautiful, like, nearly frozen over lake near your mountain, kind of on the approaches. And there's been kind of an enclave of Tritons living there for time immemorial. And these Tritons look different, but they're still Tritons. And what do you know about the Tritons?
They're nice neighbors. A little aloof. Generally peaceful. I knew a real nice one named Rick.
Yeah, super nice. So, yeah, when you approach and you see, like, like, Ronaldo, this is all new to you, so, like, all of them kind of emerging from their homes, you're like, are they emerging from, like, it's a little overwhelming. But, like, Hazel comes up, and, like, you see Hazel's like, oh, okay.
Oh, hey!
Yeah, and a couple more kind of start tapping into. Some of them have the ability to read thoughts, and so, like, Ronaldo, you're talking to Itrin. Hazel, you're talking to a different Triton. Quarantine the thief is talking to one. Like, 3 of you are being kind of spoken to right now, and the short story is this. Itrin is one of the oldest Tritons here, which means by default they're in charge. And they really want for nothing here. Like the general population of this little cluster of Tritons doesn't, like, it ebbs and it flows, but there are always Tritons. There are always meant to be Tritons here. The land and the water here are conducive to a healthy life. Every so often, like, essentially they describe orcs who they know of. This is predominantly an orcish part of the continent, but no orc has ever bothered them for a couple of reasons. One, the Tritons don't have anything the orcs would want, and 2, Tritons are capable of making horrifying poisons. So, like, any group of orcs that wander by, if the Tritons don't like it, they will get into the middle of the lake and then pop out of the lake from like 100 feet away and start hitting them with poison darts. So they've kind of carved out a very peaceful existence for themselves here. So they kind of give you that whole rundown. It seems, frankly, kind of nice. Like, all they do, they fish. They fish, they make crafts, they sing, they hum. You know, the weather's always good, you know. But the one thing that has existed to the point where it's almost become the faith around here is the fact that the northern side of the lake is horribly cursed, and to go there is to die.
Oh, that's...
Yikes.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, our maps and compasses and various tracking methods are leading us to the other side.
Definitely.
Excellent. Well,
Can you give us some specifics? Like, how do you know that and what happens?
So this is, you know, like the conversations that ensue, you know, after a while, like Itrin and the other Triton that's talking directly to you, Hazel, at this point, like, invite you to eat. And so, like, you're all kind of in the village now. They turn over one of these like large green kind of half circular domes, and they just kind of flip it over, and they all kind of get into it. Like, you're all in just like kind of a giant bowl together, and food is brought, and you also, it's lots and lots of fish, very fresh.
it's a nice bowl. I like this bowl.
Yeah, you can all fit in there except for Dolly, who definitely cannot. And yeah, here's what they describe is that every so often, like, so there are ways, I mean, you could always walk around the lake. Like, if you're on the south shore of the lake, looking at this like big placid lake, if you walk around like the east side and up, like the west side's pretty impassable. It's like, it's immediate, like, kind of sheer, but there's kind of a path. It's like an old path that like orcs carved out centuries ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take that, and they've seen orcs maybe every few years, some cluster of orcs take that path. And the same thing happens to them every time. Sometimes real close to the water, sometimes up in the mountains. Generally, if orcs pass through, you know, some of the young Tritons swim out to the middle of the lake and just kind of watch them, because they know this happens every time, which is somewhere the cluster of the orcs will start getting very sick. They will double over. They will begin screaming in pain. They will begin striking at things that are not there. Some of them hurl themselves down from the path. Some of them begin clawing at themselves. But ultimately, it leads to them desiccating away to nothing, or having like the weapons and possessions they're holding with them rot away, and then they run screaming and naked into the hills. Yeah, those that stick around because they're tough generally waste away in minutes.
Woof.
Raz, you don't need to ask Enteresh again. Based on the sound of that, and based on the fact that there are a pile of bones at the bottom of a lake, and this is a secluded mountain somewhere, and all of that, you'd bet even money that there's a lich living up there.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, that lich is very comfortable just like sitting in its mountain, occasionally seeing some living thing wander by, and then it just desiccating it for some reason.
Oh, were you about to try and find and or fight a lich that may be inside of a mountain?
So we're not draining the lake.
No.
I really don't think the lake is the hard part at this point.
Gregory, look at me. I want you to channel your anger. I want you to. Inside of that mountain, is a horrible, magical creature of undeath inside a mountain, your favorite place. We have to do a thing about that. Not the lake. The mountain.
Does sound like desecration.
Yep.
Worse than dark elves.
Can
I don't like people messing with mountains.
Can I cast divination to see kind of like where the lich is and kind of like what it's hanging out with? Maybe it's asleep, or maybe
Absolutely. I'll put it to you this way. You're going to roll your 2d6 plus wisdom to cast your spell. It's going to happen. On a full success, you get very good usable news. On a partial success, you get some news. On a failure, you get very bad news.
okay.
Oh.
Plus wisdom.
Yeah.
7.
Okay.
We get some news.
You get some news. The news is this. Lich news at 8. There is, so you see the Lich, and it is only the fact that Enteresh is granting you this vision that your stomach does not immediately turn in terror and disgust. Like, the fact is, like, Enteresh is holding up a glass you can see through. So Enteresh thinks this is okay. You see it existing. This, like, big, tall, bony thing wearing rags. You almost wish it was a skeleton because the skin it has is horrible. It's just barely stretching over like a bony hand. The Lich just kind of moves through this hollow in the side of a mountain. That mountain. And the hollow is deep. It's like the beginning of a cave, but the Lich prefers to stand in its opening and watch the sky. And based on where the Lich is, you understand why anyone that like walks up that path dies, because it kind of overlooks the sweeping eastern side of the lake. It's really kind of $1 million view. And the Lich just kind of stares, as it has for, I don't know, a century now, maybe more, kind of out over it. So that's where its eyes are set.
Okay.
So you want us to go up and openly challenge that thing to a fight?
Oh,
we could
no.
just go around. We could just go a different way. I know the West. We can go through mountains. It will take a while, but we can go. I've climbed mountains.
Me too.
You can fly over them.
I can.
But
Wouldn't be much help to you.
But Dolly can't.
And not all of us are as skilled.
Yeah.
If we are being, I mean, we fended off a chase, for sure. That couldn't be necessarily the only one. We don't have the time we wish we had. And it's hard to turn away from the horrifying creature of desecration and say, I'm cool with that. I don't know if there's another way.
Fine.
How tall
Know
is
where it
Dolly?
is? Let's go.
How tall is Dolly?
20 feet.
20 feet tall? And how deep is the lake? 25 feet?
Did I learn how deep the lake is?
How deep do you want it to be?
20 feet.
15 feet.
2 feet.
It is somewhere between 2 and 15 feet deep. Probably at its deepest, like the the great basin in which the bones have settled is probably deeper. But yeah.
Deeper than 2 feet or deeper than 15 feet?
Deeper than 15.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
could Dolly carry us across the lake?
This
Is
is-
that possible?
Should I roll for it?
So, if the plan is stay out of its line of sight until you're there,
Mhm.
the Lich is not looking at the lake, best you can tell. So if Dolly kind of walks you across, Dolly could walk you across. Well, Dolly could probably walk the 4 of you across, with your equipment, without you, drowning. So yeah, so long as Dolly doesn't get like stuck amongst the bones and like sinks to all of your mutual doom, yeah, Dolly will take you across.
All right.
That's where we're trying to go, right? So that would work.
It's around now that actually, who would this affect? Yeah, actually, hold on. Who would this affect? Vil and Chauncey. Like, all of you are kind of deciding, it's like, okay, do we do this? All right, all right, we're crossing. Ew. Vil and Chauncey both, like, kind of stare into the middle distance, and they kind of look at each other, and they start simultaneously saying the same things in a language you don't know. Yeah, Raz, let's have you roll 2d6 plus wisdom here.
7 again.
All right. So yeah, the issue here is like the Lich is becoming aware that there are people here that mean to do it harm, which means that the Lich is not going to stay in its home for long. Like, the Lich is probably going to just come out and start hunting you. Which means that, like, and that's the thing, is you don't think it... This is what's tricky about, like, weird ancient Lich magic, is you're, like, not entirely sure how it works, but you know this is, like, deeply unholy. The Lich is aware that at some point it is going to confront an enemy. And it does not know when, but it knows that it has now entered the timeline, that there will be a confrontation with an enemy. And so, you kind of shake this weird enchantment from Vil and Chauncey. And you're like, oh, all right, well, yeah, Liches. So yeah, right now you're pretty sure it's still up there because you have a vision of it being there. But your options are, like, if you do indeed go across, you've kind of got 3 options, really. You can kind of charge up the path, see how fast you can get, see if your constitution will hold. You can take another way and try to stay ahead of this thing. Or Dolly could ferry you across the lake and you can essentially try to drop a sneak attack on it.
I defer to the battle tested for this decision.
I mean, if I'm speaking of any sort of sound mind, a Lich is one of the scariest things we might face, but Gregory and Hazel and others may remember, we might have a boon with the dragon. This seems like an excellent opportunity to cash in a boon with a dragon.
Yeah, this is one we should call our mama.
Okie dokie.
Is everyone okay with this? Because once we use it, it's gone.
I'd always rather be a predator than prey.
Likewise.
All right. So you all kind of look, and like Ronaldo makes this suggestion, and you all kind of, and it was Ronaldo and Hazel. You were both there when
And
this happened.
And Gregory.
This was I.
And oh yes, that's
The three
right.
of
it was the three of you.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
Best
and you all
fruit of
just,
my life.
yeah, Mm. And you all just kind of look, and you're like, yeah. So the three of you kind of like commune. Like you just kind of all look at each other, and you're like, well, how exactly does this work? And I guess the question is, well, how does it work? What does it feel like? Like each of you give me a sentence about the chronology of how this happens.
Ronaldo draws his burning rapier from his scabbard and points it straight up to the sky and thinks of Beleriad.
I do the same with the line breaker.
Mhm.
And as it goes up there, best I can describe it, a wave of thunder moves within my arms.
I hold up my shillelagh and say her name to the air.
The Lich wasn't always a Lich. The Lich was a great scholar.
Oh.
Its race and where it came from does not matter as much. History has wiped it away. As is the case with evil that is born. The reach of this scholar extended past their grasp. They delved into secrets they ought not have delved. They made bargains they ought not to have bargained for. This Lich carved a deep, horrible scar across this continent during a time and in a way that records cannot fully document. It is a benefit to the rest of civilization that this Lich decided to take a century off and ponder the great mysteries in this place. And it would only be a matter of time before the Lich, having collected the knowledge and the treasures and the peace of soul necessary, it would only be a matter of time before that Lich stepped forth again to inflict ruin upon the hegemony, to march north into Vor, to bring down one of the great fortresses. Whether that was going to happen in a year or 100 years, it was going to happen. As sure as the sun rises and the sun sets. You just so happen to be in a moment where your path of destiny intersected this great and unrelenting force of sickening, inky evil. And it's a song in your mind, Ronaldo. This is a song of the Lich that destroyed the Silver Kingdom that's kind of rattling around in your head. And you're all thinking in this moment, well, let us hope that Beleriad answers this call. Generations from now, there will be no songs about the horror that the Lich has wrought upon the world. Because what you all see, and what the Tritons see, is a great and resplendent dragon flying through the sky, as true as a perfectly shot arrow. It hovers upon the top of that mountain, And as the Lich emerges to do its horrible grotesquerie to the Knights of Prospect, it is cooked to a cinder in full view of all of you.
Get it, mama!
And with that, please delete the boon from your character sheets.
Oh my goodness. See, Gregory, I told you we followed down that hole way back then, and look what happened. We erased a scorn from the world. A scourge.
Well, far be it from me to doubt your powers of prognostication.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
I'm sure
Far
you knew
be it
that
from
was
you.
all going to happen, yes. And Hazel, stop feeling bad for the Lich.
Smells like chicken.
It does. I don't like that about it.
Ugh. Ugh.
The Tritons hold, even though you just ate, they hold a great feast of music, of which Ronaldo sings and Raz engages in blessings, and Hazel, asks the land and the air and the wind to do things, and Gregory stands in stony, imposing silence while smaller Tritons look at him and are impressed.
Gregory's mood, I can tell, is increasing now.
A great debate, which you will not stick around to watch, is going to break out amongst these Tritons as to what it means now that the great death that inhabits the mountain is gone. Because for countless generations, they've accepted as canon fact that you just do not go past the middle of the lake. And now they got to sort this out. But for all of you, your path leads up that trail. And so you walk up that trail. Just to say we did it, I want each of you to give me a 2d6 plus hack and slash.
11.
Hack and slash is strength.
Mm-hmm.
Strength.
4.
7.
8.
So the things that are on in this trail are some of the great and horrific magical experiments that this Lich has crafted for itself over these countless decades or centuries. And now they are without a master, which means that as you're walking up, you're all like walking, and then like you're walking past like a pile of horrifying like orc bones and like ancient like pitted armor, and then suddenly they start standing up. And you start cutting them down, and then it's like, oh no, we have to be on guard because we don't know what horrifying things are up here. Raz, what did you roll?
A 4.
The things that are particularly horrible are the things that appear to want to eat you and the things you have. A great and ravenous horde of, well, little greasy blobs start kind of swarming all over you. Your mace is destroyed.
Oh.
Like the supplies you were carrying, things like you will lose things of value. Like the buckle, like for whatever reason, Gregory, the leather buckles that hold your armor on start getting chewed by these things. And it's just horrible. But you fight your way up this mountain, and you get to the hollow in which this lich was living, pondering, whatnot. And you want to definitely confirm it is dead. So I want one of you, and it doesn't matter who, anyone can do this, to say, to decide, I'm going to check and make sure it is dead. So which one of you is going to do that, and how are you going to do that? And literally, there are no wrong answers.
Ronaldo's going to go in. Having heard stories of liches and their eponymous phylactery, he's going to look not for a body, because that's not what keeps a lich. He's going to look for the fragment of its soul that's imprisoned somewhere in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And break it under his heel.
Yes.
So 2d6 plus.
If you're looking for it, let's give it 2d6 plus wisdom. And I'll give you a +1 on top of that because you know exactly what to look for. I love the confidence.
Cool. 6.
All right.
I was rolling. I was on a lucky streak all night. It was bound to happen.
So you're like, okay, there's got to be a gem or a chunk of bone or like a bit of brain in like a weird blue sphere, like something that looks like grotesque and apparent, that's kicking off all kinds of energy. And you're like, okay, it's got to be somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. Where is it? And then, you look into the hollow, and there's kind of a cave that stretches into the mountain from that. And you see something. Ronaldo, what does the piece of the lich's soul look like?
It's typically, at least if the stories are true, a piece of gem. It's usually purple, but who knows? It could be any color at all. Now, I've never seen one in person. So if the stories are true, it should be some size, form, and shape of gem. Or
Awesome.
Or it could be a brain in a jar. I've heard that story, but it's a less popular one.
Yeah. There's almost as interesting as like the grand and varied tales of Alve Alora are the grand and varied tales of like what a lich soul looks like. There are it's like a thing that bards talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So okay.
While Ronaldo's doing this, I've found the burnt husk of the body. I touch it and say, "No pulse."
You got it. Mission accomplished, Beleriad. This thing is well and truly cooked. The husk that has been the husk that this has been using to harness its power for centuries is now gone. And nice, good work, us. And then Ronaldo, you look, and there's something shiny in that cave. And you're like, And you're burning swords out, and you're starting to look around, and oh my god, there's a ton of weird crap in here. And one of those things that could be considered weird crap picks up the gem. I want each of you to give me a sentence describing the thing in here that picks up the gem. Don't hold back now.
It looks remarkably of similar shape and size and humanoid form of the lich that was just burnt to a crisp, though not necessarily made of flesh.
What else?
It is slick. It's fleshy, but it's slick, as if it took a bath in oil. And it's dripping, like kind of all around us, and kind of you see a trail of whatever that is, maybe blood, maybe oil, maybe something coming towards us.
I already gave my horrifying detail.
Yeah, no, this is great. I would love 2 more, please.
It smells like a slug. Most people haven't smelled a slug, but it's very amplified. It smells like fear sweat.
Yep.
Upon seeing it, I'm overcome with a very, very strong, hateful urge to destroy it. Like something unnatural in the back of my brain.
Yes. Yes, all of this is completely true. You all kind of walk into this cave now, and you're like, okay, what is it? That, okay, there it is. Like, there's like this weird little gem rolling around, and this thing picks it up with like its greasy, disgusting hand and like slams it into its chest, which kind of like opens up to take it. Its gross like trail of slime or grease or blood or whatever leads to essentially this like brass kettle covered in runes. This is the Lich's insurance plan. It's what happens when you have centuries to figure out what your time after death looks like. Of note, just so you don't think I'm moving the goalposts on you, I happen to have a backup Lich in my notes. And let me tell you what you avoided by having Beleriad kill it. The Lich deals entirely in magical force, meaning every time it hits you, it does D10 plus 3 damage, and it ignores any armor you have.
Great.
Also, it has 5 armor. Also, the range of attack is how far it can see you. Also, it can fly. Or not fly so much as glide up and down surfaces.
I don't know the difference.
Yeah, it's roughly the same. So, yeah, you destroyed the vessel for itself that it created. This weird, gross thing is what's left. And you look, and this horrible, sluggy thing is starting to get a sense of itself. So, before things get crazy, what does one of you want to do?
I want to smash it.
That sounds like a great idea. I think you should smash it. Yep, hack and slash, and tell me what you get.
A 12. Which means I've achieved smash.
Yep. Well, Gregory, on a 12 plus, you can choose something physical your target has, and they lose it. What should that thing be?
Maybe that bit of soul, greasy soul thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Good choice.
Yeah. The poetic savagery of Gregory is very much on display here. In point of fact, let's just go ahead and describe it, Gregory.
So it's starting to coalesce into something, and that bit of hate in the back of my brain is really the tendrils are sort of creeping throughout my mind, and I'm just overwhelmed with a strong sense to go destroy it. And I charge forward. I think maybe I saw Raz try to throw an arm out to stop me because this thing is terribly, terribly terrible. But I'm not to be held back. I rush forward, leap up, both sets of the line breaker, drop down, sort of trying to squish it like a pimple, just on both sides, coming across like this, and it just erupts in a disgusting blast of what appears to grease and sebum and pus and blood, maybe, but it's sort of brown and the white goo and the little bit of soul shoots out and lands on the floor, and I just start just pounding it into the soil over and over until it just is part of the soil. It's just a stain at this point.
There is a great catharsis in this for all of you watching it and for Gregory. And Gregory, you kind of wonder why until you realize that Doolin the Linebreaker Doomian, the spirit that inhabits your fighting cesti, felt the same way. The answer as to why this was is found within the cave. As you walk over what is left of the Lich, you realize that this cave, such as it is a reliquary of trophies this Lich has collected from the great gouge it placed across this continent over the last several centuries. Raz, you find its scepter. When you hold it, you get +1 to your turn undead rolls. Ronaldo, you pick up, and this is old, and I mean old. A brass plate carved in Elven script. Now, you can't read it, but you know that this is a song. And you think it's an important one. Hazel, what is something that you had as a child that is very meaningful to you?
My first quill that I would use to draw.
That cannot possibly be it, because it is at your parents' house. But you're pretty sure you're meant to take that one. And Gregory tossed disrespectfully on a table. The great irony, of course, is as you walk up to it, the leather straps holding your armor together finally give. Is something that you know very well, at least from pictures. On that table is a suit of armor from the first Dwarven Legion of the Hegemony. Whatever path this Lich took led it at some point through a great Dwarven treasure vault. And for whatever reason, it took this hallowed artifact. It has an armor rating of 1. Let me tell you how it works. After you first successfully attack an orc, you may roll a bonus 2d6 plus Constitution. On a partial success, your damage reduction is permanently reduced by another 1. On a full success, every orc that can see you runs in the abject terror of knowing that you are the First Legion. You pick these things up. The rest of the things you feel would be better buried, and so you bury them with respect.
Is there any remnant of the soul piece Gregory pounded into the soil?
Shards? Bits?
I take something that probably is best, like pieces of wood, something. It doesn't matter if it's valuable, doesn't matter if it is not. And I put pieces over it, just like ripping things off the wall and stuff. Take out my rapier, sprinkle the shards on top, light them on fire, and try to properly extinguish every last bit of this soul. Because liches are a poison.
They really are. It is, and Raz, you end up kind of confirming this through the eyes of Enteresh, that it is, Ronaldo, the intentionality of your action that ultimately wipes this stain of this thing from the world. All of you kind of carry what you carry out with this sense that you are meant to carry these things. And you and the rest of the Knights of Prospect, and Dolly and the thieves and a Prince of Vor continue your way from this place that you've now cleansed with fire and towards an uncertain destiny in the mountains. So we will end it right there. With one exception. Sometime later, that willow tree is populated with a trio of Tritons watching as a phalanx of 1,001 armed and armored orcs under the great warlord Homraz of the Keening Field marches towards this little Triton village. Itrin leaps down from the tree and stands in front of the army and reaches out with their mind. And Homraz kind of blinks and starts shouting questions. Who are they and where did they go? And you know what I mean. Itrin refuses to answer, but turns and buffets the village behind them with waves of sound. But instead of the Tritons coming to their aid, the Tritons take Itrin's advice and dive deep into the lake. Homraz kills Itrin and continues the march to find you all. So we'll end it right there.
No.
Tuna, no!
Tuna,
It's
our old buddy.
I thought of a great nickname for him, and he died.
Yeah,
Wow, the big tuna.
big tuna.
Ugh.
Itrin and Bill Parcells.
Yeah, you got two. You got two big tunas, and one of them has a couple of Super Bowl rings, and the other one
also has a couple of Super Bowl
also
rings.
because they found it. Some of the bones at the bottom of the lake.
Super bone rings.
Super Bowl rings.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Homraz is walking an army up a mountain for you.
Duh.
Well, I feel like that was a good use of a one-time dragon boon.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be
think
that. It felt like you're playing a top-down shooter, and you hit that.
You
hit
got
that
the
third
nuke.
button, and it just
Yep.
wipes the screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the thing is I so often in a role-playing game like this, when you get that great boon or that artifact, or heck, when you're playing Final Fantasy and you get your first like elixir, you're like, well, I got to save it for an emergency, and then suddenly the game is over, and it's like, oh, well. But no, I'm glad you actually used the gift that Valeriad gave you.
I've been looking for an opportunity. And it was a lich? Well, all right.
Yeah, that would do
And
it.
it was also perfect because it was the three of us that discovered it.
yeah, we were all
Like-
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was glad that you guys are here.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that always feels weird.
We one of us come back. And be like, oh, you used the drink. Come on.
Ah!
Yeah. I'm glad it was like the three of you and then the guy that can talk to God. Like,
Yeah.
that seems appropriate when you're like blowing up a lich with a dragon.
Yeah. Also, this
How
one
bad
was
is
like,
it, Raz? Very bad. Okay, let's hit it.
this one was a little beyond Dolly too.
Yeah, Dolly, we as a community must protect Dolly. Like Dolly, like this would have been real bad for Dolly. This would have been super bad for Dolly.
Oh,
I mean, we already turned her into a submarine.
Yeah,
we
like
can't
what a trooper.
then make her fight a lich.
What a trooper Dolly was. So actually, let me tell you all what you got. So Gregory, I told you what you got.
yes.
Raz, you are carrying around like a lich's scepter right now, so that's
Pretty cool.
pretty cool. And yeah,
I have a quill.
you do. What you have is not so much a quill as it is a blessing that you recognize. So I'll tell. This is out of game, but I'm telling you so you could write it down now. this thing can be expended one time. And the way it works is this. Whatever animal you are at the time, should you, when you are in an animal form, expend this blessing, whichever of the same animal are nearby will come to your aid and fight with you.
Oh. I'm saving it for the next time I'm a Mothman.
Yeah, oh my god. Oh no. Oh, that would canonically create an army of Mothmen. Like, I want to live in a world in which, like, there's a Mothman, and then there's Hazel who can become a Mothman. But, like, if you're like, no, I want Mothmen.
Well, the Mothman cometh.
Yep. So, yeah, and Gregory, your arm, you have your more modern armor of the Legion, or you have your legionary armor. This armor you can carry with you in like a bag or wear it. Yeah, this is like ancient stuff. This is the armor that you got out of here has been like looted from a vault where it probably sat for like 1,500 years.
Wow.
Like this was like the first Dwarven Expeditionary Legion, like someone in there wore that. And because of how Orvan belief works, it's like, oh no, that's the bad guy. So, yeah, so you got that. You got two choices of armor from now on. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of choices, audience, thank you for making the choice to join us on Saturday night. We know there are plenty of different types of Saturday entertainment. Thank you for making this your choice. We are here every Saturday night right here on 2MB Studios on Twitch, twitch.tv/2MB Studios. If you're watching it live, that's where you are right now. If you are listening to us via a podcast, fantastic. Keep doing that. We are catching up on our podcasts, I think about 40 some odd, but technically, if you're listening to this via podcast, we've already published our 59th, so great. Keep on listening. And also feel free to watch us on YouTube as well if you want to see the faces attached to the voices. It is such a pleasure to do this show and to be hosted on 2MB Studios. There are shows all throughout the week, from game shows to talk shows to wrestling leagues. Awesome, very fun, high production value wrestling leagues that are very, very cool. So all of those things are great, and we recommend all of them universally and wholeheartedly. We will see you all next week as the final approach to Alveolora commences. Good night, everybody.